And we're still debating the fact that whether we're going to use another company or go back to them. That shouldn't even be a debate at this point. It really needs to be which other company we're going to choose, what other options we have, and let's move forward with that. Because I can't see going back, making the same mistake twice in the same time frame. Right?
Thank you, David. Mary.
Mary Hogan, 606 on Quebec. I just had a quick thing on the agenda for tonight. I see that we're renegotiating our agreement to for one of our towers. One of our antennas that's on the tower in Fort Lee, and it's raising the rent of it $400, which is more than double than what we had just because we put up a new antenna. And it just looks like a dish. It doesn't look like it's a huge thing. So I was wondering why we're paying that. I mean, we do have mutual aid with Fort Lee. I don't understand why they're raising it more than double. Also, in that regard, we used to talk about putting a tower here at the New Borough Hall and putting Verizon and all the other things on it that would then pay us to, put their dishes up. What the heck happened to that? We're now entering a contract that's doubling, and the contract's in effect till 15. Now, in terms of the Veterans Field, I was going back over some of the information, and when Terms originally did their assessment of the field, what we heard from here was that, there are just 5 small sites of contamination that are beyond 0.2 parts per million. And they would be removed. And that's all that would be removed was those sites. Matter of fact, in the paper, Mr. Franz, we're quoted as saying, the dirt in that park is so clean you could eat it. You shouldn't be really concerned about this contamination. Now, we're up to, we have to remove, in terms of the bid package, 9,150 tons of equal or greater than 50 parts per million, and 47,500 tons less than 50 parts per million. This dirt, I would think 3 years and $3 million to Waterside in terms of that park being closed. They certainly have removed the 5 little sites. So anything that's on there, Waterside has brought in. And for us to say in the bid specs, we may not remove the 47,500 of lower contaminants. It's not ours. It's Waterside. It's Mr. Dives. They have to remove it from the field, not us. And in terms of the future, when our former engineer, Shurdapama, indicated that every 10 years you were going to have to refill that field because it was going to sink, because the dirt was going out to the river, just natural, because we don't have a bulkhead there. That means if we leave the contaminants there, they're eventually going to go out and go out into the Hudson River. We own that land. We're going to have to put a deed restriction on it because it's now considered, if you don't clean it up, it's contaminated. And like Alcoa, who has never touched that property for 20 years, we're in the line of title, the borough of Edgewater, and we're responsible. So the contaminants that goes into the river and damages not only this generation of children, but future generations of children, we're going to pay to clean it up. We didn't put it there. It's not ours. I would hope that all of you would actually go after the person that did and make them take it out and clean it up. I don't understand in terms of our complaint, which has now been amended, why the RICO clause was taken out. That is the strongest clause you could have. It's been removed. I want to know why. Is it perhaps because it's Waterside Construction and Mr. Dives that we're going after? Please, clean the park up to what we originally talked about so many years ago before it was closed and started to be worked. That's not our contamination. It's his. and we have to force him to.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Valerie?
Valerie Bordinas, 16 Hudson Terrace. First, I want to comment on the council. I come to every meeting, and I'm always amazed by how the council decides. It picks and chooses what answers or who they're going to respond to. The easy questions get answered. The hard questions never do. I'm sorry, Mr. Bedell, am I boring you? Yeah, well, I understand. You don't like facts. So you pick and choose when the rules are going to be enforced. I even began writing my questions down and handing them out, reading them at council meeting after council meeting. I've never gotten an answer to even one of them because they were the hard questions. I thought, excuse me, not on my time, but I thought First Environment was going to give a presentation also. No?
They're here for closing.
They're just here for closed? That's too bad, because I have some questions regarding their numbers that still don't make sense. Is this council planning on still cleaning the field to the highest standard? Or are the numbers changed to just accept what the EPA regulations are? Anybody? Because meeting after meeting, this council opined, we're going for the highest standard, we're going for the highest standard. But after listening to the little presentation here, it doesn't seem that way. And just to talk about the AstroTurf, very nice man, and I'm sure in Tom's River you have grass, because I'm down there every week, there's grass. 30 degrees higher than an outdoor temperature is a lot. And that's one of the problems with AstroTurf. It superheats because of the rubber. And I cannot believe that. I was sitting here listening to a presentation on, we have a problem in this field. There is contamination, recontamination, and now we're going to put an artificial substance that is you've got to have a well and a drainage. I don't understand this. You're talking about possibly not cleaning up to the highest level, capping it. We're going to have drainage. Where is it draining to? I don't know. Every 10 years, we've been told if you don't have a bulkhead, you're going to have to replenish the field. So if you're not cleaning to the highest standard, in a few years, we're all going to be standing back here again because now Mr. Divey's fill will be considered historic fill because it was never addressed properly in the first place. And we're going to just cap it, put a little something over it, and then let our children play on it. I understand Mr. Vidal and Mr. Henwood don't have children, but I have adult children who have children. And I have neighbors and friends who have children. And I have lots and lots of neighbors and friends in this town who don't have a backyard, who enjoy going to the park and bringing their kids to play on real grass. And I understand Mr. Henwood said, well, it's just going to be on the field. But, I think it's ironic that the women's soccer team is now suing Canada because they're forced to play on AstroTurf and the levels of injury. There are studies. There are studies depending on the companies that make AstroTurf or the people who are opposed to it. You can find a study either way. I want to get back to the park. I have seen this council do some really bizarre things. And a lot of it I didn't agree with. But this, that you even publicly outed, that you would consider allowing Mr. Divey's back on that field. He not only contaminated the field, he covered it up. So we would have never known if somebody didn't catch it. We would have never known. Our kids would be there today. And getting back to the Green Acres, yeah, isn't it ironic because of Green Acres we found out that our kids are playing on contaminated soil? Thank God for Green Acres, I say. The claim is that we might be forced to take Mr. Dives because of the bonding. Well, you actually don't have to take the person that you dealt with if past performance. Contracting laws say that a contracting unit does not have to hire any company with proven negative experience. Poor performance is prior negative experience. The fact that we're back here spending hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars, my money, everybody in this room's money, to remedy a situation that somebody else caused, I think that could be considered poor performance. I just, shame on you, shame on you. All of you who go along with this. This is your legacy. This is your legacy.
Katie Jones, 559 under Cliff Avenue. Okay, so are we ready for some football? It's that season. I feel like, you know, we hear about Ray Rice in the news and his abused wife, and I feel a little like I got Ray Rice knocking at my door because here we are, we're gonna go with a guy who royally screwed us, and we're gonna take it. And why would we do that? Why did Janae take it? Why did she take it from Ray? Because she likes living in the style she's accustomed to. But I'm not getting anything from Ray, me personally, and I know you know what I'm talking about. What are you getting from Waterside that we're going to take them back? What's the quid pro quo here? I don't understand. A contractor comes into my house, if they crap on my floor and they cover it with a piece of paper, and they say, that's all right, Mrs. Jones. It's going to look better when I put another piece of wood over it. I say, get out now and pay for the floor. Okay? I have a child who has environmental diabetes. You don't have children, you don't have children. I don't know if you're comprehending any of this. It's not pretty, okay? I don't want to wish anything on anybody, but you better look toward the future because as Mary said, we're all going to be held responsible if you allow that not to be clean to the highest standard. I know you want that, and you have to say something about it. You have to publicly state that you want that field cleaned to the highest standard. And as for AstroTurf, I guess that's why I was taken off the Recreation Committee, because I had to fight that battle for years. We talked about this for years and years and years. Veterans Park. It's a park. It is not a sports complex. I love sports as much as anybody else. I coached down there for 15 years, okay? It's not a sports complex. We don't have to play a mandatory 160 baseball games. We're not producing any superstars in this community, okay? You don't need the AstroTurf. It's silicon dioxide. You want to talk about, never mind the injuries with the knees, what about the breathing problems? What about children who play and they have asthma? Any consideration? No, because, why? Maybe only mothers think of these things? I don't know, I'm looking at a bunch of men. I don't know. Is anything crossing anyone's mind here? Sports injuries, as I fought this battle years ago, I thought it was over. More large, dangerous, large, more serious injuries with AstroTurf, less minor injuries. You know, guys like Chris Jenkins from the Jets, he blames his knee injuries on AstroTurf. Ben Roethlisberger says, you know, it's killing the team because they can't get their feet out of the ground. These are professional athletes. These are professional athletes playing on AstroTurf. They're having a hard time. You're going to put little kids out there on AstroTurf? I'm sorry. Grass. And not seed. Let's not talk about seed. You said sod originally, correct? Weren't we supposed to do sod? Is it a yes or I think it's a yes. See, I don't want to ask rhetorical questions. Just once, I'd like someone to answer those questions. question, just once. Okay? And, you know, and I could go on about the NCAA, security, injury surveillance and all that stuff, but it's really not necessary. I walked out one day after we had one of these conversations inside about AstroTurf with Bob Murray, and it had just rained, it was a beautiful April day, beginning of baseball, and he goes, wow, it really smells nice out here. And I said, yeah, that's right, Bob. And you want to know why? Because that's grass, and those are trees, and this is a park, and that's why it smells nice out here. And this is the only park you have. You know, you have a contaminated park up by the library. I noticed that sign came down. Parents in the room, please know that there's contaminated water near that park by the library. You should put the sign back up. The parents should have a fair shake in all of this. And now they're playing on a little dusty field at EDG, which was that ever tested after the Alcoa came down? Was that ever tested? Because I didn't see any type of security or any kind of thing, you know, put in place to make sure. You're not going to tell me stuff didn't fly over the field. That's why I said 9 out of 10. But anyway, that's a whole other story. So, I'm saying, like everyone else is saying, you have to take a new bid. We cannot be the battered wife that keeps taking it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I mean, if somebody did that to me, I would take it. I don't understand what you get out of it to be beaten down, to be used and abused, to have something dumped on your property, on your land, and then you'll go back and say, do it to me again? Hit me one more time? I don't get it. I just don't get it. It's not in my makeup. And I don't know. Any parents, no? You coach down there for years, don't you? You don't think it should be to the highest standard? You don't think our children should be protected from toxic waste? And never mind that, us protected from future lawsuits down the road? You guys are responsible. You've been on the council for the last 4 years. It's in your court. You guys are responsible. So your signs about open parks and lower taxes, who do you think you're talking to? You must be living in a bubble.
Ma'am.
This is an easy one. Terry Beck, 1322 River Road. I just want to know, do you have plans to include a dog park if and when the park ever gets finished? And if not, do you have plans to put one somewhere else in this town so those of us that have dogs are either not getting yelled at by neighbors when we're walking our dog or have to go to Leonia to find a dog park? So that's my question. All right.
Anyone else wish to be heard? Seeing none, I'll close the open portion of the meeting. Let's start off right away. On the southern part of the field, there was potential dog run on the south end of the field. Also on the agenda tonight, Councilman Henwood is bringing up a potential dog park somewhere in the county. As far as the 5 minutes, Dennis, as long as I've been here, you were here with me. 5 minutes, it's always been 5 minutes, we'll answer the questions to the best of our ability at the end, as long as I've been here. So I'm not trying to not answer, but even with some of the council members in the last couple of months, they've realized that when you start going back and forth, you know, it might get heated, and at the end of the day, someone might feel like they were deprived of a minute or a half minute. So that's the way it's been. I'm not trying to shut anybody out or not answer your questions, but it just seems more effective if we wait until the end and then try to answer them as a whole. So, Phil, what was in the beginning? What was the question in regards to the policy we had written up?
The policy that we're following concerning when we open the meeting to the public is over the past several years. We realized that it is more productive to let the public speak for their full 5 minutes and not engage in a back and forth, which from time to time has deteriorated into an argument, because neither side allows either person to complete their thought or their answer. So experience has shown that the policy that has been implemented works effectively. do try to answer every single question that's presented to us. We do it in an orderly way, and we're able to complete our thoughts without interruption and argument. So, Mayor, that you're correct, that has been the policy, and I think it has worked effectively. Obviously, Veterans Field is a very important topic, and it's generating a lot of comments, but that is the reason we have our professionals here this evening. We have special counsel, we have our environmental consultants, and we are pursuing the solution to that problem. It is not as simple as everyone, may think it is, and we have to take into consideration all of the ramifications involved. And tonight we have a bond on the agenda which will involve the potential expenditure of money, and that has to be taken into consideration as this debate moves forward. Mayor, I think that's the way the policy is, and that should be taken.
As far as Pam and Wanda, within the block, but I'll make sure that you get the phone calls back. There's no reason for code enforcement not to be calling you. I can vouch that I get many calls to my house, and you're a few doors down. Next time it happens, feel free to let me know, but they should be answering the call. And I usually, I'm dealing with both ends of town. I'm always getting calls to check on properties and make sure gates are closed, and you can have access to your sidewalks. Phil, wasn't there a question earlier on in regards to the process? Yes.
And what have we learned?
Yes.
Mayor, the bid process that we are following is regulated by the local public contract law, and advertisement for these bids are in compliance with those bids as we work the specifications that Mary Hogan had there this evening. We've been developing those bid specifications with our new environmentalists. We have taken over 1,500 soil samples, which is a substantial more than terms ever took or was required to take. So as a result of that information, we were able to refine the bid specification as precisely as we possibly can so that we can approach this remediation in a reasonable and rational way. The first thing that has to be done is the highest levels of the contamination has to be removed. Through the assistance of our new environmentalists and our engineer, we have been able to identify the precise location, and that is what is our main focus, Mayor, is to remove that. We did not have that level of detail the first time we went out to bid. It is very difficult to know precisely. There were 5 hotspots that were identified, but the park has been there a long time. There is historic fill there, and all of that has to be taken into consideration. And I think that's what we'll talk about in a few minutes, and then we will come to some sort of resolution after we've been able to better understand the complexities of this issue.
All right.
So Mayor, what's the additional bond monies that we're looking to increase? It's not 13.7, it's on top of that. We're going from
380. The additional?
4 million.
4 million.
And I just think it should be noted that